Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining for our first edition of From the Woods Today. I'm Renee Williams, and I'm here with my co-host, Billy Thomas, and I'm an information specialist with the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources, and we really appreciate you coming and joining us today.
Certainly. As Renee said, I'm Billy Thomas. I'm an extension forester in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources Extension. And we would normally like to be out at a field day or a workshop or some other program, but we're trying to connect with the folks that are interested in woodlands and wildlife all across Kentucky. So we appreciate you all being with us today. And Renee, I'm excited about this show, and it's an opportunity really for everybody that's interested in woodlands and wildlife to kind of come together.
So Billy and I are both in forestry extension, and that's kind of what we do. We extend knowledge to you, whether it be through our researchers, or any topic in between, from woodland owner, what you need for woodland owners, to wildlife, and all topics in between. So that's kind of why we decided to create this show, is so that you all could maybe be able to do things that you might have time to do right now. Get in your woods.
Yeah, no doubt. So every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, we're going to be having this show. They will be brief shows, less than a half hour or so. We want to hear from you all, though, too. There is a link on the website, fromthewoodstoday.com, where you can complete a quick little survey and let us know if there's some questions or topics you'd like to see on future episodes.
Yeah, so make sure you do that. And each segment, we will have some kind of video segment so that you all can watch it. And it's something that we think or feel that it's something that would be important to you. So just make sure you tune in, and we will be downloading these and putting them on that From the Woods Today website. And that website is www.fromthewoodstoday.com. And you can get to our website that way, and we will be posting all of the videos that I told you we were recording at the beginning. We'll be posting all of those there so you can watch them later, because we understand that sometimes bandwidths are not the same, and so we want to go ahead and make sure that you can see everything we talk about maybe on your own time, and you may just want to go back and revisit it.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about having these recorded. You know, and I'll say that the whole Forestry and Natural Resources Extension team we've been meeting a lot online and talking about how we can kind of help you all. And we've been shooting some videos of some cool stuff, and we're going to look at some of those videos today. Several of our team members have created some nice little videos, and you know, Renee, you want to go ahead and get started with the first one on invasive plants?
Yeah, that would be great. All right. So first of all, we have Dr. Ellen Crocker, who actually is on this video. It's a chat for later. She will be popping in. There she is. Say hi, Ellen. She'll be popping in a little bit, and she can answer some of your questions. So we have a 3 to 4 minute video, I believe it is, with Dr. Crocker, and she will be able to talk about this. So let's get that started.
Hi, my name is Ellen Crocker with Forestry and Natural Resources Extension at the University of Kentucky. Spring is a great time to get out in your backyard or your woods to look for wildflowers, but it's also a great time to look for those less wanted plants, the invasive plant species. So I'm standing here right now with one of the most common spring invasive plants that we see. This is bush honeysuckle. It's one of the first things to leaf out in the spring. Before anything else has its leaves, you'll see lots of green, and that's this plant, bush honeysuckle. And it just takes over understories of our forests along roadsides and other areas. Now, it is planted as an ornamental plant. It does have those nice white flowers that you might remember, or the little red berries, but it doesn't stay put. Birds eat those berries and will carry them everywhere. Another invasive plant that really stands out this time of year is Callery or Bradford pear. It's one of the first things to bloom in the spring. Really prolific white flowers everywhere. It's beautiful, and I think that's the reason why it was so popularly planted in people's yards and along streets. But it's a kind of a bad tree for those settings because it falls apart really fast. And in addition, it'll move out from there, take over old field areas, roadsides, you know, dominating in dense thickets of these kind of small trees. And they also have really thick thorns that can really get you if you're trying to walk through areas that have a lot of it, or trying to cut it out of your woodlands. Now, an invasive plant you might not be as familiar with that pops up in the spring is this one right here, Leicester celandine or fig buttercup. It really stands out because it's got these beautiful yellow glossy flowers. It's a buttercup, so kind of like other plants in that family, but it kind of pops up and then it disappears for the rest of the year. So if you want to find it and manage it, now is the time. The reason this is a problem is that it will just take over your forest areas, especially those right along the river. This plant has little bulbs under the ground that make it really tough to pull up. Also makes it really easy to move downstream if it's growing alongside a river. Just dislodge some of that soil, maybe a little erosion, and those bulbs float right downstream.
There are lots of other invasive plants out there, and so if you want to learn to identify them, this is a great resource. It takes you through different types of plants, and you can just click on the trees or shrubs or vines and get lots of great photos as well as information on the different features. There's some other guides for some of those newer invasive species and making sure you don't mistake them with others. On management, there's a lot of great options out there. This is one guide in particular I really recommend. If you go to their website, what you'll find is a really comprehensive list of different types of management approaches and how to do them, as well as specifically by different plant species, what you should do to manage them. And all of this is really based in nice scientific information. Another great resource is the Native Alternatives brochure from the Kentucky Invasive Plant Council. It goes through a lot of our most common invasive plant species, and then what are some great native alternatives that you could plant instead. Finally, here's our website. You can click on a different plant, find resources on what it is and how to control it.
There's no shortage of invasive plants here in Kentucky, whether it's those that we just talked about or the winter creeper that's surrounding me here. But there are also great resources to help you get started on some management. Visit our website or check out the resources after this to learn more, and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for listening and joining me today.
Okay, so that was a short video with Dr. Ellen Crocker, and we have her on. There are some different invasives out there, obviously, than what she talked about. And if you all have any questions about some of the ones that you talked about, if you looked in the chat pod, you can actually type your questions in there because Dr. Crocker is here with us to talk about invasives. But while people are kind of coming up with some questions, Dr. Crocker, is there a better time to treat invasives?
It totally depends on the plant. So, for example, some of the ones that I showed today, lesser celandine or fig buttercup, right now is the only time really that it's above ground. The rest of the time it's going to be dormant. And so if you want to do any management, the time is either late winter, early spring. For some parts of the state that would have already passed, but for many parts of the state, right now is the time. There are a couple different ways you can do that. Because of those tiny little bulbs, it is hard to pull up, but you could dig some up, especially if you have a small area with it. I've seen people's yards that have it. Here in Lexington, someone's front yard is entirely filled with it. But if you have a small amount, you might be able to kind of remove it by hand that way. For those larger patches of it, though, what you're really going to be looking at is an herbicide application. And it really depends on where you're located, because some of those herbicides, lesser celandine loves to grow right along streams. So you want to grow use something that's going to be safe for the site that you're using it. On the other hand, let's talk about something like calorie pear, another species that I mentioned. Right now is a great time to scout for calorie pear because it sure sticks out with those white flowers. But it's actually not the best time to manage it. Sure, those smaller seedlings, you could pull them up, maybe remove manually. But if you were to just cut calorie pear, it's going to sprout back up a lot. And that's true for a lot of our other woody invasive plants. Someone I saw in the chat box asked about invasive honeysuckle. So we have a couple different honeysuckles that are invasive in this area. We have a vine honeysuckle, Japanese honeysuckle, and we have bush honeysuckle. Bush honeysuckle is kind of right in line with calorie pear in that if you were to just cut it without treating it, you'd have to do that repeatedly, regularly to see what you want. Otherwise, you're just going to get a lot of sprouts. But right now really is not the right time to kind of cut and apply herbicide, because as all of these trees are leafing out, they're kind of pushing everything out from the roots up into their leaves, so they're less likely to absorb that herbicide. So you kind of want to wait a little bit later in the year.
Similarly, not relevant right now, but let's say this were fall and your Japanese or your bush honeysuckle had berries all over it. Might not be the best time to do a lot of management because it's really easy to move those around. Another one that I didn't mention in this video, but it's a great time to be looking for and managing, would be garlic mustard. It's another one of those that kind of pops up early in the year. It actually has a 2-year life cycle, where the first year it's just going to stay as kind of small little leaves on the ground. And the second year it's going to send up this shoot with flowering heads. You can manage it by pulling those, but a caveat that you have to pull pretty much all of them. So there have been some studies that if you're not pulling over 95% of the flowering heads of garlic mustard, you might as well not do it, because all of those small disturbances that you're creating actually are perfect places for new seeds to arrive and germinate. The other thing I would say with garlic mustard is that you do want to be really careful when you pull it, not to just lay it on the ground, because what I've found is that those flowers, even if you've pulled it, will continue to develop and produce seed, even if you pulled them out of the ground. So you want to bag that and take it away, remove it from that site. Someone mentioned, what's the best way to eradicate invasive honeysuckle? There are a lot of different approaches, so it really depends on your situation. So how much honeysuckle do you have? What else is around it? What else do you need to be considering? What's your ability to kind of monitor this on a regular basis? So one thing that I do like to advise people that, there are lots of different approaches out there. There's kind of no one size fits all. One of the things that people have, turn to are herbicides because they can kill the whole plant. Not just the above ground portion, but the roots as well. But there are other approaches. You can regularly cut, you can solarize for some species, kind of applying a dense tarp. It's not a one size fits all approach. I would say that it's really important to think about your property and prioritize what you want to be doing. It doesn't do you or anyone else, your woodlands, any good if you do a really big effort one year and cover a lot of area and then don't think about it again for another 5 years. It'd be much better to pick an area that you want to prioritize and target, and really be thorough about that, not just once, but revisiting, making sure that whatever treatment you did worked, making sure that new seeds don't come in, because seeds are constantly coming in from other sources, and really focus on that and then expand out. I know that if you manage for bush honeysuckle and wait a few years, you can come back and it looks like you haven't done anything, and that's just really frustrating. So save yourself that frustration and prioritize what you want to focus on. So I see we've got a question coming in from Vicky Stogsdill. Who manages the woods and forests in Kentucky in terms of ridding invasive plants in the woods? For most of our area, that's you. That's the private woodland owners. 78%, Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, 78% of our forests are privately owned by family individuals. And so with that, there's an extra challenge in that there's nobody who's going to manage that. That's up to those landowners. And that's not to say that you can't hire somebody to help you out with that. That's not to say that you can't maybe get some cost share funds from NRCS or others to help support that. But it's a big challenge. There's no way around that. And I think the other big challenge is that, we have the invasives you have now, you have things that are constantly coming in, and not all of them are going to have the same impact. So some of them are maybe going to be most problematic right after a disturbance, or maybe right when you're having a harvest. You really want to be on top of those invasives so that they don't get in the way of the things that you want to see happening. You want to see regeneration of all these great native species. You don't want to see a dense field of a tree of heaven. So thinking about what are your goals and what you want to get out of that. We might not be able to eradicate every invasive that's out there as much as I would like to sometimes, but you can kind of think, what do I want to get out of this, and what's getting in the way of that? I see we have another question about kudzu.
It's been very invasive in some areas. What are some practical methods to control this? Again, this really varies on your area and what resources you have. So we could go through some of those. You know, if you graze it or mow it on a regular basis, you can keep it at bay. There are herbicide options. There are other options out there, but what I really want to recommend is that folks check out that resource that I put in the chat. I kind of made a Google Drive folder just for you all that has a whole bunch of different invasive plant resources in one place. So it's tinyurl.com/Kentucky invasive plants. And I just put a bunch of free books and different things in there that go through step by step for different plants, what you can do, what are some important considerations, because it's going to really vary based on where you're located and what are other things around there. And that way, if you've got questions on particular ones, you can check those out and see. Another resource that's in that same folder is lookalikes to invasive plants. Kind of what are some natives that might look similar, because sometimes distinguish those is hard. Although I'm going to say I don't think that that's a problem for kudzu, because that one sure stands out. So let's see, what other questions do we have?
And while you're going through that, I will remind everybody that all of the links or publications and stuff are also available on FromTheWoodsToday.com. So Renee and them have put those up there as well, so you all can get all of those references there too. And I would just kind of add to what Ellen was saying is, you know, you're not alone. There's a lot of assistance and resources available to help you. Certainly if you're a woodland owner and you have more than 10 acres or so and you want to get a professional forester to come out there, the Kentucky Division of Forestry offers that as a service, and they can meet with you and help you advise and develop a strategy to treat the invasive plants. And as Ellen mentioned, the Natural Resources Conservation Service is a federal agency of the USDA that makes money available to help landowners do conservation practices, and invasive plants is a big one that they focus on as well. So don't feel like you're alone in this. You know, there's a lot of support out there, but it is, as Ellen said, something that you're going to have to kind of stay on persistently. And I would say that invasive plants are one of the reasons that we can really no longer just let our woods go. Just letting them go, and you're likely to end up with some things in there that you're not really happy with. So you got to stay on that. You visit your woods a lot. You know, that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk about these invasive plants today. It's a great time for you all to get out and see some of these things that are emerging now. You may see something new that you didn't realize. If you do, you know, feel free to take pictures and send those to us. We have on the website as well, FromTheWoodsToday.com, a link where you can submit photos and other things. If you see something in your woods that's of interest to you, or you're not sure what it is, pass it along and we will try to address it. Also, if you have other questions later on certain species or topics or whatever, you can use that same survey to generate those for us, and we'll try to respond going forward.
Yeah, so each week, I don't see any more questions. Ellen, did you have any other questions that popped up in your chat?
I just want to thank everyone for being on. Really nice to see your names, if not see all of you in person. And as Billy mentioned, you know, you're not alone. There are some great resources. You couldn't ask for something better than walking through your woods with a KDF forester or a consulting forester, you know, help you get a grasp of what's going on. And we're here to help as well. So if you got any questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat box. And if I don't know the answer, I can connect you, hopefully, to someone who does. So nice to see everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Crocker. Yeah. So we're going to continue on, and I think Billy has a little poll he wants to ask everybody.
Yeah, I do. So I'm going to pop up a poll real quick, and basically we just want to try to get a sense of who the audience is. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. Hopefully you can see that poll and just go ahead and respond.
Looks like they're coming in.
Yeah.
It's funny, on our end, you can see all the different answers that are coming up, and we'll show you those in a minute, but they're just kind of gradually going every which direction. So it's kind of neat to see. All right, it looks like that's pretty much stopped. Billy, if you want to.
Yeah, so we've got 30 of the 43 folks responded, so thank you all very much for that. I'll go ahead and end this poll. We're up to 31 now, and let's kind of get a look at where we're at. I'm going to share these results. So we can see about 35% are woodland owners, 38% are county extension agents or staff, about 30% homeowners, got some woodland and wildlife fans, and a few natural resource professionals and a few others as well. So we certainly appreciate each and every one of you all joining us today. We know these times are a little bit different than normal, and we appreciate you all kind of being with us as we kind of navigate this.
Definitely.
Yeah. All righty. You know, so we've been talking about invasive plants, and, you know, and I know that sometimes they may have a little negativity associated with them as far as being a problem in your woods. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to show a nice video of a tree of the week. We're going to feature one of our trees each week. And here in Kentucky, fortunately, we have a huge diversity to draw upon. Have well over 100 native tree species here in the state, Renee. And the one that we're going to show today is really one of my favorites. It's a beautiful tree, and it's really putting on a show right now. So I'm going to go ahead and share the next video from Laurie Thomas. She is an extension forester at the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources, and she's going to be showing us the tree of the week.
Hi, I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Department of Forestry and Natural Resources, and I'm standing in front of the tree of the week. This is the eastern redbud. It's native to eastern North America. It is a small one, we consider a small or size tree, grows 15 to 30 feet tall. It is deciduous, so it loses its leaves in the winter, grow them back in the spring. But the great thing about this is it's already flowering, so you're gonna really be able to see these flowers before those leaves come out in the next couple of weeks. It has these really beautiful rosy pink pea-like flowers. The redbud is in the pea family, or the Fabaceae leguminosae family. The flowers are pollinated by bees, and they are also edible. You can make a jelly out of the flowers, and if you go on the internet, you can find lots of recipes to make a redbud jelly. Now, the leaves, which are going to emerge in the next couple of weeks, are also a good characteristic to help you identify this tree. They have heart-shaped leaves, very distinctive heart-shaped, broad heart-shaped leaves. The seed pods are also a good characteristic. Remember, we said it's in the Leguminosae or Fabaceae family. It has a flat pea-like seed pod, kind of papery. A lot of times that will persist throughout the winter. Those seeds are going to be dispersed by birds or by wind. And overall, it's a great tree. It's tolerant of a variety of soils. It does well in partial shade to full sun, and it's just overall a real beauty. And I'll leave you with one fun fact. In George Washington's diary, he recorded he spent many hours transplanting seedlings from the woods around his Mount Vernon home so that he could plant this tree in his garden. So if you get a chance, check out in your backyard, see if you've got any redbud, walk around your neighborhood and see these spring beauties out right now. Enjoy.
Let's say a little change of pace there.
Yeah, definitely. But I know she was talking about the redbud, and I'm looking out my back door right now, and I can see this redbud in full bloom. She was also talking about a redbud jelly, which got us thinking. So we have another video coming up. If any of you are ever interested in making redbud jelly, we'll be able to show you how to do that.
A team member that we have, Eric Gracie, he's a management forester here in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources. He works in the Center for Forest and Wood Certification, but he's also a budding Food Network star, I found out, Renee.
He will be.
After this video, we may not be able to employ him anymore, but Eric put together a nice little video about how you can actually make some of this redbud jelly that Laurie was talking about. So we're going to go ahead and share that video of Eric's. We appreciate each and every one of our team members for all their work in putting these videos together. We've all been learning as we go with this new process, but I think you'll enjoy Eric's video on making redbud jelly. So I'm going to go ahead and share Eric's video now.
Hi, I'm Eric Gracie. I'm a forester with the University of Kentucky Department of Forestry and Natural Resource Extension team. And right now in Kentucky, the redbuds are making their showy display along the forest edges and roadways of Kentucky. Some folks may not realize it, but the blossoms are edible on redbuds, and you can use them to spruce up a salad, but they can also be used to make redbud jelly. So today we're going to go through the process of making redbud jelly. The first thing you want to do is you want to pick approximately a quart jar of blossoms. You can include the stems, it's not going to hurt anything. And once you get your jar good and full, then we'll go through the next step.
I will dump the blossoms out. I kind of dump them in my hand, make sure there's not any sticks and what have you. All right, we got those dumped out. 2 cups of boiling water. So once you get everything good and wet, you're going to want to let this water and blossoms cool till they are room temperature, or you can also store these overnight in the fridge.
And the next step is going to be to strain the water off of the blossoms. You're going to need an extra fine strainer such as this one. You can also use a coffee filter, or you could use a cheesecloth. So got another bowl here, and we're going to just start pouring the blossoms through the strainer. Okay, so we have brought our Redbud blossom juice up to a boil, and the next step is going to be to add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, 3 tablespoons of Sure Gel, and then you're going to want to stir this and bring it back up to a boil. Okay, so we've got this the broth back up to boil. The next steps are going to be to add 2 cups of sugar and 2 teaspoons of butter, and then we're going to stir this with our whisk, and we're going to bring it up to a hard boil. Continue to stir while this is boiling to keep the sugars from burning. After it's boiled hard for a minute, you'll want to pour those into prepared sterilized jelly jars. Okay, so our Redbud jelly ended up making 3 half pints. And the last step is to put them in a warm water bath. So you're going to want to use a stock pot, bring water up to a rolling boil, and you want your water depth to be about 1 inch higher than your jars. So that's the last step. We're going to grab these, put them in the stock pot. We're going to let that boil for about 10 minutes, and at the end of those 10 minutes, then we will let it cool for 5. All right, now it's time to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Nothing better than a spring morning breakfast al fresco. Got my biscuit here and my freshly made Redbud jam jelly. Nice and tart, smooth, very nice. If you'd like more information on how to make the Redbud jelly or other forestry topics, check out ukforestry.org.
All right, Billy, that looked very yummy. So
I want to try it.
I know. So if you have a Redbud, you can go to ukforestry.org, and actually we have a www.fromthewoodstoday.com. You can find that recipe and how to do it. So we'll have all those links on that website, so you'll be able to find anything that you need that you heard in today's show, including the recording once we get it downloaded.
Yes, indeed. So again, thanks everyone for being with us. You know, this is a challenging time for everyone, and we appreciate you all spending a few minutes with us. And so come back next Wednesday at 11. And if you know of others who may be interested in this show, please help us spread the word. And again, a big thanks to the whole Forestry and Natural Resources Extension team for their work on the videos, and some other folks behind the scenes that we're not seeing that are doing a lot of work to try to keep bringing you all programming. So again, thank you all for being with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.